In this packet tracer physical mode, you will configure hosts and device interfaces with IPv6 addresses. You will issue show commands to view IPv6 unicast addresses. You will use ping and traceroute commands to verify end-to-end connectivity. Cable the network and configure basic router and switch settings. You will cable the network, power the devices, and then configure the router and switch with basic device settings. Cable the network and power the devices. Okay. Look at the topology R1. Okay, this is R1 and this is S1. S1. Okay, from R1 gigabit 001 to Fast Ethernet 5 on S1. Use a copper straight-through cable, and from R1 gigabit 001 to Fast Ethernet 5 on switch S1. From router gigabit 000 to PCB. Choose a cable from router gigabit 000 to PCB. This is PCA, this is PCB. Fast Ethernet on PCB. And you can see the connection. This connection. From R1 gigabit 000 to PCB Fast Ethernet. And finally, from Fast Ethernet 6 on S1 to PCA. Choose the cable from Fast Ethernet 6 on S1 to PCA Fast Ethernet. Okay, very good. Power the devices as needed. Okay, click here to power on the router. This is the switch, and switch is connected to the power distribution device, so this connection is enough to provide the energy to the switch. And down here, power on PCA, power on PCB, configure the router, assign the hostname, and configure basic device settings. Okay, and use this console cable, the light blue cable, the console cable, click and connect the console on the router. Then configure the router from PCA console port. The console port on PCA is the RS-232 port. Okay, now you have the connection from PCA to the console on the router. Then click on PCA, desktop terminal. Okay. Would you like to enter initial configuration dialog? No. Enable. Okay. Assign host name. the topology and addressing table says the router is R1. Configure terminal hostname R1 case sensitive. Okay, that is enough the hostname, and you can add more settings, but for this activity the hostname is enough. And configure the switch, assign the hostname on the switch. Okay, I will connect from PCB to the console of the switch. Use another console cable and connect from the console port RS-232 port on PCB to connect the switch console port. But where is the console port in the switch? Right click, inspect rear, and this is the console port. Now you have the connection from the PCB console port RS-232 to the console port on S1. Okay, and go to PCB, desktop, terminal. Okay, enter, enable, configure terminal host name S1 case sensitive. Very good. Configure IPv6 address manually. You will manually configure IPv6 addressing on all the devices in the network. Assign the IPv6 addresses to the Ethernet interfaces on R1. Assign the IPv6 global unicast addresses listed in the addressing table to both Ethernet interfaces on R1. Okay, use the addressing table, this addressing table. This addressing table, R1 has two interfaces, gigabit 000 and gigabit 001, two gigabit Ethernet interfaces. Okay, and click on PCA. Remember, you are connected to the console of R1. Configure gigabit 000 and gigabit 001. Interface gigabit 000, IPv6 address 2001 DB8 ACAD A:1 prefix 64. Look at the prefix. Enter, enable the interface with no shutdown command. No shutdown. Enter. And now gigabit 001, gigabit 001, IPv6 address 2001 DBA ACAD 1:1 prefix 64. No shutdown. Verify that the correct IPv6 unicast address is assigned to each interface. Okay, and on privilege exec mode, use show IPv6 interface brief, and you can see in gigabit 000 is up and protocol up. This is the link local address, and this is the unicast address. Gigabit 001, link local address, interface up, protocol up, and Unicast address. The link local address FE80:: displayed is based on EUI64 addressing, which automatically uses the Interface Media Access Control MAC address to create a 128-bit IPv6 link local address. Okay, this link local address is based in the MAC address. You can do the following: show interface, enter, and now you can see gigabit 000. Look at this MAC address 016306C001, 016306C001. Okay, this link local address is based on this MAC address automatically. To get the link local address to match the global unicast address on the interface, manually enter the link local address on each of the Ethernet interfaces on R1. Each router interface belongs to a separate network. Packets with a link local address never leave the local network. Therefore, you can use the same link local address on both interfaces. Use a command of your choice to verify that the link local address has been changed to FE80::1. Okay, to configure this link local address on both interfaces, you can use the same link local address on both interfaces because each router interface belongs to a separate network. Okay, and access again to PCA that is connected to the console of R1 space. Is connected to the console of R1 configure terminal. Interface gigabit 000, IPv6 address FE80::1, specify link-local, enter, and access interface gigabit 001 and use the same link local address, exit. Okay, and verify. And use end to go privilege exec mode and use show IPv6 interface brief. And now the link local address changed to FE80::1 in both interfaces. Which two multicast groups have been assigned to interface gigabit 000? Okay, do the following: show IPv6 interface gigabit 000 and the all nodes multicast group and the solicited nodes multicast group. Okay, solicited nodes multicast group. Enable IPv6 routing on R1. From a PCB command prompt, enter ipconfig command to examine the IPv6 address information assigned to the PC interface. Okay, and go to PCB and close the terminal, open command prompt, ipconfig. And now you can see the IPv6 address is only link local address on the PCB. No unicast address has an IPv6 unicast address being assigned to the network interface card on PCB. The answer is no. No, only link local address. Use the Ipv6 Unicast routing command to enable Ipv6 routing on R1. Okay, click on PCA. You are on console of R1. Configure terminal Ipv6 Unicast-routing. Okay. Use a command to verify the new multicast group is assigned to interface gigabit 000. Okay, click on PCA on R1 console and show Ipv6 interface gigabit 000. And now you can see this new group. Okay, verify the new multicast group. Is this. Notice that the old router multicast group FF02:2 now appears for interface gigabit 000. Okay, FF02:2 all router multicast group. This will allow the PCs to obtain the IPv6 address and default gateway information automatically using stateless address auto configuration Slack. Now that R1 is part of the all router multicast group FF02:2, from PC reissue the ipconfig command and examine the IPv6 address information. Okay, go to PCB. Go to PCB. Repeat ipconfig. Now you have the IPv6 unicast address. Why did PCB receive the global routing prefix and subnet ID that you configured on R1? Okay, click on PCA. Look at the IPv6 address on R1. 2001 DB8 ACAD is the global routing prefix, and subnet ID is A. Okay, the fourth section 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, the subnet ID is A, and on PCB, okay, remember PCB is connected to gigabit 000 on R1. Okay, PCB is connected to gigabit 000 on R1. This is gigabit 000. Click on PCB, and PCB has the 2001 DB8 ACAD, the same global routing prefix, and A, the subnet ID, the same subnet ID, A. And why did PCB receive the global routing prefix and subnet ID that you configured on R1? Okay, on R1, all IPv6 interfaces are now part of the all router multicast group, FF02:2. This enables the router to send router advertisement RA messages with the prefix information to all nodes on the LAN. Notice that R1 also sent the RA message using its link local address FE80:1 as the source IPv6 address of the packet. Devices will use this as their default gateway address. When using Slack, to ensure correct results, the router's interface should use a 64 prefix length. Look at this, the link local address, unicast address on PCB. The default gateway is the link local address of the interface gigabit 000. Click on PCA, the link local address on interface gigabit 000 is used as the default gateway on PCB. Assign IPv6 addresses to the management interface switch virtual interface on S1. Assign the IPv6 addresses for S1. Also assign a link local address for this interface. Okay, remember PCB is connected to S1, to the console of S1. Okay, PCB is connected to the console of S1. Click on PCB, close command prompt, open terminal, okay. Enter, enable, configure terminal. Now, according to the addressing table, configure this IPv6 address. Okay, and interface VLAN 1, IPv6 address 2001 DBA ACAD 1 : B, prefix 64. Enter. And don't forget also assign link local address. Okay, IPv6 address FE80 : number 1 is in use by the router, so you can use B, for example, and specify is link-local. Okay, and no shutdown to enable this interface, no shutdown. Okay, exit. The switch will automatically receive its default gateway address from router advertisement message sent by the router. It will use the source IPv6 address of RA message, which is the router's link local address. However, your version or packet tracer may not yet support this on the switch. Okay, the switch will automatically get the default gateway. Okay, on real network, the switch will get automatically a default gateway and will be the link local address of gigabit 001 on R1. Okay, but this is not supported by packet tracer for now. Okay, and don't worry, use a command of your choice to verify that the IPv6 addresses are properly assigned to the management interface. Okay, click on PCB that is connected to the console of S1 and use show IPv6 interface VLAN 1. You can see VLAN 1 is up, protocol up, global unicast address 2001 DBA ACAD 1 : B, prefix 64. Okay, all nodes multicast group FF02 : 1 and solid-sided nodes multicast group FF02 : 1 column FF00 : B. Don't forget the link local address FE80 : B. Assign static IPv6 addresses to the PCs. Open IP configuration window on each PC and assign IPv6 addressing. Okay, click on PCA, close terminal, open IP configuration. You can see the automatic configuration with change to static, and on PCA configure this Unicast prefix and default gateway 2001 DB8 ACAD column 1 column 3 prefix 64. Link local address, use this, and default gateway FE80 column 1. Click on PCB, close terminal, open IP configuration. You can see the automatic configuration. Change to static, and is 2001 DB8 ACAD A column 3. Okay, this configuration for PCB. Prefix 64 and default gateway FE80 column 1. Okay, very good. Verify both PCs have the correct IPv6 address information. Each PC should have 2 global IPv6 addresses, one static and one slack. Okay, click on PCA, command prompt, ipconfig, click on PCB, command prompt, ipconfig. Okay, on PCA, you can see the link local address, the IPv6 unicast address, and default gateway. Okay, on real network, you should have 2 global IPv6 address, one static and one slack. But in Packet Tracer, you have only one, the global IPv6 address. Okay, and on PCB, link local address, global unicast address, default gateway. Okay, previously the unicast address was automatically assigned by a slack, but now use the static IPv6 address. Very good. Verify end-to-end connectivity from PCA ping FE80 column 1. Okay, from PCA ping link local address of gigabit 001 on R1. Okay, click on PCA, ping FE80 column 1. Okay, ping to the default gateway. Success. This is the link local address assigned to gigabit 001 on R1. Okay, very good. From PCA, use tracer command to verify that you have end-to-end connectivity to PCB. Click on PCA, use tracer, and use the IPv6 address of PCB 2001 DB8 ACAD A column 3. Success, trace complete. Okay, this hub is the router R1, and this another hub is PCB. From PCB, ping PCA. Okay, click on PCB and ping PCA. IP address of PCA is 2001 DB8 ACAD column 1 column 3. Success. And from PCB, ping the link local address for gigabit 000 on R1. Okay, from PCB, ping the link local address of gigabit 00 on R1. Click on PCB, ping FE80 column 1. Success. why can the same link local address fe80::1 be assigned to both Ethernet interfaces on R1? Link local packets never leave the local network, so the same link local address can be used on an interface associated to a different local network. Okay, and each router interface belongs to a separate network. Packets with a link local address never leave the local network. You can use the same link local address on both interfaces. What is the subnet ID of the IPv6 Unicast address 2001 DB8 ACAD AAAA 1234 prefix 64 if the global routing prefix is a 48 prefix? Okay, this is the IPv6 address 2001 DB8 and ACAD colon AAAA colon 1234. Okay, this is the IPv6 address. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 sections, and you should have 8 sections. Okay, another 3 sections are placed here in the column. 3 sections of zeros, 3 sections of zeros placed in this column. So this is the abbreviated notation. So I will expand this IPv6 address, and here on column you have 0000 column 0000 column 0000, and now you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 sections. So this is the expanded complete IPv6 address. Okay, and the subnet ID is the 4th section. Okay, 4th section. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, is 0000. So that's why the answer is 0000. Global routing prefix is 48. So this is this part, 3 sections. 16 bits plus 16 bits, 32 bits plus 16 bits, 48 bits. This is the global routing prefix 48. But the prefix of global unicast address is 64. Is this? "16 bits plus 16 bits 32 bits plus 16 bits 48 bits plus 16 bits 64 bits", or is the same the abbreviated notation, this. Okay, is the same. Thank you very much.